Today's topic is on nutritional supplements. So I will be talking about what supplements are, why they are often used, are they necessary, are they safe, and some of the real main things that you want to watch out for as far as quality control goes. Okay, so supplements are all the rage these days. There's many different people and organizations touting to take nutritional supplements. It seems like before you know it, you could end up with a laundry list of supplements that you're taking. And especially if you're trying to navigate this world on your own, it can be really difficult to figure out what you actually need, if what you're taking is safe and effective, if it's actually helping. So I just start off to define what supplements are, or what nutritional supplements are. Nutritional supplements are designed to contain therapeutic doses of certain nutrients. So that could be vitamins and minerals. It could also be certain phytonutrients that we see occurring in plants that we need higher doses of in order to create the therapeutic effect that we're searching for. Now, one common question that I get is, why do I have to take supplements? I would like to get all of my nutrients from food alone. And while I share in this value, and I also wish that we could get everything that we need from food alone, the truth of the matter is that our environment it's unprecedented. It's unlike anything that we've ever lived in before. And I'm speaking specifically to the higher rates of stress, the chemicals that are in our food, the chemicals that are in our water, the chemicals that are in our environment. So in the last 100 years, there's been over 80,000 chemicals introduced into our environment, a fraction of which have actually been directly tested for human safety, let alone what happens when those chemicals interact with each other. In addition, our soil is depleted through different growing practices. Our soil is becoming more and more depleted. I gave another talk on this before, but we're talking, to get the same amount of iron. There was a study that found that if you get the same amount of iron in a cup of spinach back in the 1950s, you would now have to have 7 cups of spinach. So there's just a difference, like I said, in our environment from multiple different perspectives. And so because of that, it creates a higher demand for certain nutrients. So, and because our food is becoming more depleted, we can't rely on being able to get enough of those nutrients from food alone. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. That doesn't mean that you can eat a crappy diet and take a bunch of supplements and it's all going to be fine. Food is still one of the number one ways to relay the status of our environment to our body. So if we eat junk food, we're essentially sending a message to our DNA that it's a toxic processed environment, versus eating a diet full of organic whole foods, which will send a message to our DNA that it's a safe and clean environment. So healthy, clean eating is still the foundation, one of the foundational pillars of health. But because of the changes within our environment, most of which we can't directly control, that is where I do support the use of supplementation. Second aspect to that is looking at achieving therapeutic doses of certain nutrients. So many of you know I work with people that are really, really struggling with their health. Everything from digestive disorders, IBS, to chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, insomnia. So people that are really suffering with their health. And we do extensive work with nutrition and diet. Like I said, it's one of the foundational pillars. However, to give you an idea, we'll use an example of curcumin. So curcumin is the active ingredient, if you will. It's one of the main phytonutrients in the spice turmeric. Curcumin is one of the, top 3 touted supplements for things like primarily for inflammation. It's a really powerful anti-inflammatory. But there was a study that found that in order to achieve the therapeutic dose of curcumin, which is 400 milligrams, that's what most research studies, they're using around 400 milligrams as a starting point to look at efficacy in fighting inflammation. So to achieve a therapeutic dose of curcumin from food alone, we would have to eat 7 pounds of turmeric. So that's where supplements can become really, really beneficial in supplementing the diet so that we can move the needle faster, right? We can get from point A to point B in much less time and really start seeing changes, positive changes and improvements in our health versus the time that it would take to move the same needle with diet alone. So I am very much in the business of, I don't want you to be my client in 2 years, right? I want to get in and get out, really heal the body on a deep level to create lasting and sustainable change because we address the root cause, and we can get in with targeted precision with the use of therapeutic doses that we can achieve through supplements. So that is why I'm a proponent of supplementation, particularly with the clientele that I'm working with. But then also, for people that are more so interested in optimizing their health, biohacking their health, then supplements can really help kind of bridge the gap. And that's exactly what supplements are designed to do, is to supplement the diet, is to supplement healthy living. Like I said, it's not meant to replace a healthy diet. It's not meant to replace, burning the candle at both ends and chronic stress and not sleeping at all. But like I said, it can really help us get from point A to point B faster. And in our environment that is drastically changed from anything that we've ever known before, it can help fill the gaps where we need that extra support. So those are the reasons why I often use supplementation with myself and with clients. So now let's talk about different quality concerns with supplements, because it is true that not all supplements are created equal. So where we see this issue the most is with over-the-counter supplements. So over-the-counter supplements, unfortunately, it is a largely unregulated industry. You often don't really know what you're getting in over-the-counter supplements. So you'll see, that's why you'll see on a lot of supplement products, you'll see these claims are not supported by the FDA. And that's because supplements kind of fall through the cracks of the FDA versus the USDA. So if they start making, if they're not making claims, they fall into a food product and they should be governed by the USDA. If they are making claims, then it's a drug product and they would fall under the FDA. However, that's why most of the time there's not specific, in order to be classified as a drug product, it has to go through all of the clinical trials that drug testing does. And so, I should say that pharmaceuticals do. And so that's why none of them are considered drugs, and so they can't be studied by the FDA. And so there's kind of this division in who's actually regulating over-the-counter supplements. So with that said, there's been multiple studies, actually. You can look at the American Journal of Nutrition, American Medical Association. You can look at many different studies where they've pulled different products off the shelves and test the ingredients within the product, and they'll find elevated levels of heavy metals. They'll find elevated levels of environmental pollutants like PCBs or phthalates or parabens. They'll find like fish oil is really notorious. Over-the-counter fish oil is notorious for having elevated levels of mercury or, like I said, parabens. So you'll find sometimes even like microbes, bacteria, viruses, you'll find different pollutants in these really low quality products because, like I said, they're largely unregulated. Now, hi Katie, so good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So you'll find a lot of those issues. Second reason, or actually another study that I want to quote, because this one was really monumental, and this was released probably 5 years ago, maybe at this point, 5 or 6 years ago. But there was this study that was all over the news where the researchers pulled multiple different brands. I think it was from GNC, Walgreens, and Walmart brands, if I remember correctly. Pulled multiple products off of the shelves and tested them. So they were testing, is what is in the actual capsule, is it what's being depicted on the bottle? So dosage, like quantity in other words, purity, and ingredients themselves. Like it says turmeric on the bottle, is it turmeric what's in the capsule? And found that in some cases, like one example, ginseng, I don't remember the brand exactly, but they tested ginseng and didn't find measurable levels of ginseng actually in the capsule. You'll see the same problem with like vitamin C, for example. It says that there's 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C on the label. When you actually test what's in the capsule, it's nowhere near 1,000 milligrams. Probiotics, we see this a lot with. There were a couple of studies that looked at random probiotic products pulled off the shelf. Most of them, I think it was 2 out of 30, actually had living organisms in it. Now, side note, you do get some benefit from dead bacteria, but you're not going to get the same benefit, obviously, if they were alive. So over-the-counter supplements, I'm really not a proponent of. There's a handful of brands out there. I don't want this to become a brand debate, so I'm not going to share any names. But there's a handful of brands out there that I would trust more than others. But for the most part, that's where, a lot of people push back on supplements saying that it just creates really expensive urine. And with over-the-counter supplements, I would kind of agree with that because you just, like I said, you just really don't know what you're getting. And then there is the concern of, is it even safe? Or are there toxic levels of different components in it? So from that perspective, I don't support most over-the-counter supplements. And the other thing with supplements too, and I'll in just a minute, I'll describe what I would consider kind of the top 3 to 4 supplements that I would recommend for like the average person. Other than that though, one thing that I'll often see is many of my clients come in and they're taking this laundry list of over-the-counter supplements, and half of them, they don't even know what they do. And the other half, they don't really need. So, that's still something at the end of the day that your body has to filter through and detoxify. And so, really kind of coming in with some targeted precision to determine like, what are your health goals? What is your health status? What do you need becomes very black and white. And that will also change a lot as your body changes, as your health changes, and as your life changes at different phases of your life. You might need different support. But being able to really get some clarity on what that is for you in particular is invaluable. So you're not just ending up taking a bunch of supplements and you don't actually know what they do, and then it's expensive, and are they actually working, or could they even be potentially making things worse? So that's kind of the conversation on quality control of supplements. What is worth mentioning is that there are brands that are very reputable that you have to be a practitioner in order to work with. And so those are the brands that we work with. Those are the brands that I work with because those are regulated like pharmaceuticals. So what that means is if I were to show you a chart on what they're testing for, the contaminants, and one of the really big ones that these companies do, and one thing that you do want to look for if you are purchasing over-the-counter supplements is something called third-party testing. So third-party testing means that most over-the-counter supplements means that they'll just take the finished product and have it tested by a third party. So sometimes you'll see like the USP seal or the NSF seal, or there's another label too. There's another label that shows that it's been third-party tested, which is a start. But they'll have the finished product tested by a third independent lab that doesn't have stake in profits. And so tested by a third-party independent lab for quality assurance. So that will help, that lessens the risk. But still, when you look at the number of contaminants that are tested compared to those that can be tested, there's still a really, really big gap. So third-party testing. The other thing, and this is something that I really like about physician-grade supplements, is that not only are the finished products third-party tested, but the raw materials, so the individual ingredients that go into that product, those are third-party tested. And that's really big. It might sound like they're the same thing, but they're not. So the individual materials being third-party tested. To give you an example, we've had, sometimes supplements will go on back order because the vendors can't get quality ingredients from the suppliers. So a supplier that they're using, they might go out of stock, so they have to shift to something else. And green tea, for example, is notorious for this, where it can be high in lead, depending on where it's grown. That goes for like just sipping green tea. Also, always go with organic green tea because otherwise it can be high in lead. And so nonetheless, that was a problem that came up a couple years ago where this product was on back order for a little bit because the vendor couldn't get the quality of green tea. It kept coming back with too high lead levels. And so they weren't manufacturing the product. But if you put that in the wrong hands, they might have still manufactured the product and now it's released to consumers. So quality matters. And that is why like I said, there are certain brands that we use exclusively because they go through that third-party independent testing. They're regulated like pharmaceuticals. So they go through, like I said, the number of contaminants they're testing for. You always know that what is on the label is what you're getting in the bottle. And to share some of these companies, even though it's going to be kind of difficult to get, but you can still research it. So Designs for Health is one of my favorites. Vital Nutrients is another favorite. Metagenics is another favorite. Those are the three that I probably use most commonly. But point being is over the counter, don't really know what you're getting. Talked about the reasons why. The physician grade, practitioner grade supplements, you do know what you're getting. And so there's a lot more trust behind those products. Okay, last, and actually before I say that, it's also worth mentioning that some people, hard to say, but if you're taking a supplement and you start feeling worse, if it's an over-the-counter product, it kind of begs the question, is it the product itself or could it be something else that might be in it, like some kind of a contaminant that might be in it? So just putting that out there. Now, last question is, what should I be taking? So for the average person, what I would consider maintenance products, and I consider them maintenance because they do they have global effects in the body, global benefits, and they're kind of like insurance policies for our health is how I look at it. So even if you're eating a really healthy diet every day, the odds that you're going to have the same nutrient density every single day is low. You might be missing some nutrients on certain days, or maybe you don't eat enough on certain days, or maybe you have higher stress levels on certain days. Whatever it might be, the consistency is going to change. And so that's where I use these maintenance products to help kind of bridge that gap to ensure that you're still getting a solid baseline of these keystone nutrients. So the first is a high quality multivitamin mineral product. And one way that you can look for kind of a baseline quality, even though I just knocked most over-the-counter supplements, is looking at the quality of the nutrients within that product. So for the minerals, you want to be looking for words like citrate or glycinate, like zinc citrate or magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate. If you see oxide next to most of the minerals, like zinc oxide, magnesium oxide, for example, it's probably a lower quality product. You're only actually absorbing like 20% of an oxide form. Second thing that you want to look at is in the B vitamin section. Look for next to B12, does it say cyanocobalamin or methylcobalamin or adenosylcobalamin, but adenosyl's is a lot less common. More than likely it'll be methyl or cyano. If it says cyano, again, probably a little bit lower quality. If it says methyl, it might be a higher quality product. Next to, same thing with folate. If it says methylfolate or folic acid. So folic acid is going to be lower quality, methylfolate will be higher quality. B6, you want to see P5P and not pyridoxine. So P5P will be a higher quality product. And then also look at the other ingredients list. So, I'm just going to put this out there up front. If you're getting your multivitamin from a chewy, like a gummy, ditch it. You don't need to take sugar when you take a gummy, when you take a multivitamin. So just ditch it and take a pill and swallow it. But truly, because there's going to be less other ingredients with it. And so that's what we want to look for is, in the other ingredients, it should be, like vegetable cap, maybe a couple other things. But if you have like a laundry list of artificial ingredients, including like artificial colors, so yellow number 5 and green number 3. I mean, you just don't, again, it's not necessary, and it's more junk that you're taking in with the product. So multivitamin mineral, first one. Second one is a high quality fish oil. So there is an over-the-counter brand that I actually really like for this. And actually I'll say the over-the-counter brand that I would recommend for a multivitamin mineral, I really only know of one, and that's Mega Food. And you can find them at most natural food stores, most grocery stores. But Mega Food is a really good one. I'll be perfectly honest, I haven't researched it a whole lot lately because I just kind of got turned off from reading all this different information about what you're finding in over-the-counters. But like I said, Mega Food is one that I would trust. Second product would be a fish oil product. And fish oil specifically, EPA and DHA are the active ingredients, if you will, in fish oil. And fish oil does a lot for us. It supports the brain, it supports the hair, skin, and nails, it supports the immune system, the cardiovascular system. Again, it has global, far-reaching benefits. You can eat 3 to 4 servings of fatty fish, like salmon or tuna or mackerel, for example, or sardines, during the week and get close to a therapeutic dose of fish oil. So that is an option. Or you could supplement with fish oil. And with fish oil, a couple things you want to look for. One, brand is huge with this. So an over-the-counter brand that is trustworthy is Nordic Naturals. You can find them at, again, most grocery stores. They've got a really broad line, and they do really great testing and quality control with their products. So Nordic Naturals is really great. They also have a pet line for anybody that's interested, because it's fantastic too. It's really great for dogs' coats and cats' coats. Nonetheless, Nordic Naturals is a good one. And what you want to look for fish oil is turn over the back of the bottle, and you'll see the EPA DHA content on there. Disregard, it's probably going to say like 1,000 milligrams of fish oil. Disregard that, that doesn't really matter. Look to see how much the milligram dose of EPA and DHA is. And ideally, a good kind of baseline starting point is 1,000 milligrams of the two combined. So if you have, for easy sake, 500 milligrams of EPA, 500 milligrams of DHA, great, then you're getting up there. Most likely it'll be something more like 600 and something milligrams of one and 400 something of the other, but it'll come up roughly. But I encourage you to actually check. Now, Nordic Naturals, you'll find that's a lot easier. Some brands, though, you're getting literally like 300 milligrams of the two combined, and it's nothing. It's really hardly, it's such a low dose. So that's where like quantity also matters on that one. So again, flip over the back of the bottle, look at the EPA DHA content of both. Nordic Naturals is a great brand, and you'll be able to get those doses much easier than some of the other ones. I do want to put this disclaimer out there with all of these that I'm recommending, because I'm about to recommend 1.5 more that I'll explain that. I am not your doctor. This is not medicine. I am not making recommendations. There are contraindications with taking certain supplements. A big one is anybody listening that's on a blood thinner. Coumadin, warfarin, you have to be really careful about what supplements you take with that. So there are certain medication interactions that can happen with supplements. So this does not replace the advice of your doctor. I'm just putting that out there right up front, actually at the very end. But nonetheless, please know. Check with your doctor, check with me. Feel free to message me or post on this if you have any questions about which supplements, like if these that I'm recommending are safe to take. Just kind of putting that out there. So last recommendation would be a vitamin D3 product. And vitamin D3, vitamin D, again, far-reaching benefits, helps with hormones, helps with bones, helps with mood and brain health and immune system health. It is more of a hormone than it is a vitamin, so our skin normally synthesizes it from the sun. It synthesizes it from UVB rays specifically though. So even though I live in Colorado and we live at altitude and we're closer to the sun, and a lot of people think, oh, I'm outdoors all the time, the UVB strength is actually weaker here in certain times of the year, which is why we actually have a higher rate of certain autoimmune conditions, because autoimmunity and low vitamin D are very closely connected. So even though you spend a lot of time outside, where you live makes a difference. So my coastal listeners, you might have a better chance of having optimal vitamin D levels than my, more mountainous people that live at elevation, further away from the equator where the sun is weaker. But nonetheless, because of that, either way, a good kind of baseline starting dose for vitamin D for most people is going to be 5,000 IU. Again, sometimes vitamin D is included in a multivitamin. It's going to be pretty negligible, probably around 400 IU per day. But again, that's where, an individual product would help, and you flip over the back of the bottle and see what the dose, the per serving dose is. Some of these come in liquid form, some of them come in capsule form. Another thing that you want to make sure is that it's in a fatty substance. So like a powdered vitamin D product, for example, I wouldn't recommend because vitamin D is fat soluble. So in some kind of a fatty substance, usually that's coconut oil or sunflower oil or olive oil or something like that, MCT. But you'll see that on the other ingredients, and then you'll know it's good to go. And if you've it's also a great idea to have your vitamin D tested. A lot of doctors do. It's a pretty routine test at this point. So that level will matter dosing wise. But like I said, for the general person, 5,000 IU is usually a pretty good starting point. You can take that daily with food. Same thing with the multivitamin in the fish oil. These would be with food. And then that is one thing worth mentioning though when talking about like toxicities. So are these nutrients safe? Most of them are safe. Like I said, though, there are contraindications with certain prescriptions, and there can be contraindications with certain conditions. But with the fat soluble vitamins in particular, A, D, E, and K, we store those. So if you take high levels of them, they can accumulate and become toxic. That is something to be aware of. But like I said, that 5,000 IU of vitamin D is safe. I mean, we often go far higher than that for people that are deficient. Doctors will even prescribe 50,000 IU in one that they take once a week. So it's harder to achieve that toxicity, but I do want to share that it is possible. With certain vitamins, you do have to be more careful than with others. And then herbs, same thing. Looking at your health specifically and how those can interact does require a level of individuality, but for the most part, they're going to be safe. Last caveat to that disclaimer is pregnant and breastfeeding women. All of the products that I've recommended so far, multivitamin, fish oil, vitamin D, all of those would be fine. But when you start getting into herbals is where you would want to start kind of watching out because not all herbals are safe with pregnant or breastfeeding women. So last product that I view as kind of a maintenance product is a probiotic. And this one I said half, meaning I halfway recommend it. It used to be one of those products that anybody could take it. It was safe, anybody could take it. It'll help with digestion, it'll help with intestinal health, it'll help with the immune system. But now, recognizing the fact, for example, that 50 to 80% of IBS, irritable bowel, with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, that's where it's actually contraindicated to take a probiotic. And so in that case, that's why I'm like, well, maybe. So key thing to look out for is if you take a probiotic and you feel worse, like you get more gaseous, more constipated, more bloated, more diarrhea. And it doesn't, sometimes that'll happen, but it'll go away after like 2 days. If it doesn't, then stop, because that could be a real key sign that SIBO might be happening, in which case a probiotic would make it worse. But for those listening that don't have digestive symptoms, generally in good health, then a good multi-strain probiotic is another good choice for maintenance products to take. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps clear up the understanding of supplements, why they're used, how they can be helpful and how they can be hurtful. So I'm happy to help as much as possible. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. So good to see you. Have a great night tonight. Good night.